And away we go. It is another nightcap right here on BearcatJournal.com. Friday the 13th edition. Brought to you as always by Galactic Fried Chicken. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, and everything Galactic. Aaron.
Chad.
The patio is open.
Finally.
At Galactic Fried Chicken. They've got new lights.
Okay.
So that's big. They've also now included tax in all in-store pricing and rounded to even numbers.
That's convenient.
And this is the big one. The number 2 chicken sandwich in the city is no longer a special menu item.
Nice.
It is back.
Well, they were
popular demand.
They were bringing that back with the whatever I forget what they called it, but where it comes with the
the little baller. With the PBR and with some fries and a sandwich. But the sandwich is back on the menu full time. It is outstanding. So,
have you had a sandwich?
I've had them before they went away. So I mean, it's just chicken fingers on the sandwich.
Any word on that chicken parm?
We just haven't had time to really work with him on. I made chicken parm last night. Does that count for anything?
You taste so good.
Chicken parm, you taste so good. It was delicious. So
very good.
Yeah. All right, let's get going. We've done quarterback for football. We've done point guard for basketball, Aaron. It is time to keep going down the list.
Well, let's run with it.
There you go. Time for running back. And boy, what a fascinating summer it is going to be at running back at the University of Cincinnati. Did you see the Instagram yesterday, Aaron?
I did not. I was a little busy.
Corey Kiner? Well, I didn't know if while you were driving or Corey Kiner.
Does he finally have a jersey number?
I don't know if he has a jersey number, but he's in Cincinnati. He has returned. He
back.
had a UC hat in his picture and said, good to be home. So Corey Kiner is back in Cincinnati, which takes an already interesting running back room and makes it borderline fascinating. Because, when Jerome Ford transferred in, Jared Dokes was the heir apparent. Jared Dokes was supposed to be the guy, then got hurt, then Mike Warren became the guy. Jared Dokes waited his turn. It was Jared Dokes' turn, and Jerome Ford kind of waited in the wings, was a really, really good number 2 option.
Yeah.
But, Dokes was number 1. Well, there's not a surefire number 1 going into Camp Higher Ground. And Corey Kiner enters the picture. Seeing what happens there. Go ahead.
That's something we talked about, though, kind of at length through all of spring, is that we weren't sure who was going to emerge as the guy.
Right.
I mean, largely because you had an injured Ryan Montgomery. You didn't know what was going to happen with Ethan Wright. Miles Montgomery may be the best all-around back prior to Corey Kiner arriving. But it's been already a fascinating story, as we had no idea what this running back room was going to look like. Add in a little dose of Corey Kiner, and things are very, very interesting. I think this is probably the second most interesting room going into Higher Ground.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Montgomery that was the backup.
Which one?
Ryan Montgomery, which was the backup to Jerome Ford last year.
Right.
You have Charles McClellan, who, as we saw a couple times in the spring, looks like he's got his Charles McClellan back.
Chuck's
in terms
always
of
an
the
interesting
ability to
story.
cut and the speed.
Yeah.
You've got Ethan Wright, who has shown big playability and toughness, north-south running.
North-south, absolutely.
And you've got Miles Montgomery.
Yeah, Miles looking like the most complete back out of all of them.
He's got inside the tackle skills. He's got outside the tackle skills. He can catch the ball. He's got some explosiveness. I don't really know how to handicap this. If you're talking about just straight talent, right?
I mean, only one of them is a Mr. Ohio.
Kiner is probably your guy. Does that, if Kiner is your guy, does that allow you to feel comfortable putting Miles Montgomery in a secondary role behind him?
I mean, if you go back to last season at LSU, Kiner averaged 4.1 in a season against the SEC with
a line that wasn't great at LSU.
An entire team that wasn't great at LSU.
Talented. 10 guys drafted.
They're always talented, but the team as a whole was not successful. I don't think that can be argued.
No. Their coach got fired because they stunk so bad. Their coach got fired 2 years after a national championship.
They
stunk so bad. It's just really interesting, like how this staff approaches this, right? Because there's going to be a competition. There always is.
Right.
But running back, in terms of practice evaluation, is probably the hardest to evaluate because there's no tackling.
No pads, right.
I mean, there's pads, but like there's spider pads, or it's not full game speed, full like. That's one of that's not even then.
They get what, like one or two, right? I mean, they're still able to
they're in shoulder pads and like full pads, but they don't hit because it's counterproductive to hit. Like you can't have 10 guys coming out of higher ground like injured.
No,
because you're hitting, right? There's going to be guys that get hurt. Like that's the nature of football.
Sure.
Guys are going to land awkward. Guys are going to turn ankles. Guys are going to hamstrings, at the start of, camp are going to be an issue. Like those things happen. Yeah. But you can't compound that by going live all the time and having guys get hurt. And that's like kind of the thing Kiner does, right? Like
he's a bruiser.
Well, he forced 39% missed tackles in his freshman year in the SEC.
He is a bruiser.
Right. He's going to run through you. He's got a great spin move. He's got the ability to get out into open space. He maybe doesn't have Jerome Ford's,
breakaway.
Yeah, hit the gas, but
not yet.
Not yet. Well, that's something. You saw Ford run away from Georgia.
Listen,
and we saw 37 of Georgia's 22 starters drafted.
Well, I believe in Alabama's strength and training coach, whoever his name is, whoever that may be. I believe that Nick Saban hires a very good strength and training coach. I don't believe
Brady.
I'm getting there. I don't believe that LSU necessarily hires a great strength and training coach.
LSU has money to throw. Like they've got, I'm sure, a great strength and conditioning coach.
Maybe. But
no, I'm guaranteeing it.
I don't know that whoever they have at LSU would compare to Brady Collins. Whereas I would think
anybody in the country compares to Brady Collins.
I would say that whoever Alabama had might actually compare anyway to Brady Collins.
I mean, you have to get whoever's at LSU in terms of like strength and conditioning. They're putting 8, 9, 10, 11 players in the NFL every year. Like their strength and conditioning program's not the problem. Orgeron being a bad coach was the problem there. I get what you're going, but like LSU's got probably one of the highest paid strength and conditioning coaches in the country.
It's probably top 15. Yeah.
No, top 5. Like everything they do is financially second to pretty much none because they have resources that are second to pretty much none. Once you start cashing those $60 million SEC checks on top of the entire state funneling money into the program. But point being, we won't know in practice really. Like Kiner doesn't get tackled, nobody's slipping off of him and seeing him bounce outside. So higher ground is going to be fun at running back, right? Like,
yeah,
who knows how this is going to go.
And obviously you have the connection between Kiner and Prater that they've not been shy about, as Prater was actively recruiting Kiner when he had already committed.
Instant he hit the portal.
Right. Well, even before that, right? When we go back to his original recruitment,
right?
As he was trying to get him to go to Cincinnati once he committed, and then the instant he hit the portal, of course you had he was back on using the same graphics even, trying to get him to come back home. And you have to love that. That's an excellent callback.
Remember this? Remember
Right.
this? I told you.
Right.
Told you, bro.
So I don't know. I obviously we kind of have an idea what kind of brings to the table. That said, I think it's still going to be interesting to see who battles for number 2. I think it's going to be extremely interesting to even see who wins number 3 and to see what that share load looks like. Because even if Kiner wins the job, I don't think he's going to be the bell cow that Jerome Ford was.
I think he could be more of a bell cow than Jerome. Remember, Jerome Ford had a little bit of an injury
in midseason. Yeah.
Yeah, like the ankle was a little bit of a problem. I think Kiner is more Mike Warren than anybody that has been at UC since Mike Warren.
You think you're going to see
also had a little bit of it. I don't think they're going to do it because they don't need to.
I guess that's kind of the point I'm getting at. I don't think he's going to be 20, 25 touches a game.
Yeah, but I think he is built for that more than Ford was, as I guess my point. You see what I'm saying?
I think that's a completely fair assessment. That said, I don't think that that's what this team is going to do. I think this team appreciates fresh legs and, getting guys off the field for a breather as opposed to.
That's going to depend on how good Kiner is with football in his hands, right? I mean, balance is great. Spreading the rock around is great. But if you got a dog, you give the dog the bones. You're not giving the cats the treats. You're giving the dogs the bones.
Week 1 at Arkansas is going to be so telling for the rest of the season, and I can't wait for that game.
Well, here's what's going to be telling for me. The way that they do things. We are not going to open higher ground with Corey Kiner as the number 1 back.
No, hell no. That's not. That's right. That's not what Gino does. That's not what Luke does. That's not what any of this staff is about. Right. You do have to earn things like numbers, like positions,
nicknames.
Yeah.
The guy that went number 4 in the draft didn't get his nickname until he went number 4 in the draft. And he had the coolest nickname in the country.
Really?
Right?
Absolutely.
Like the coolest nickname in a long coolest nickname since Honey Badger.
The fact that nobody in media, like anywhere, ESPN, NFL media, like nowhere, are they actually calling him Ahmad? Nowhere.
Yeah, Sauce. Like it's the best nickname in college football since the Honey Badger, right?
Absolutely. I don't even think anyone else comes close to Honey Badger.
What Johnny Football? Like that was so.
That was also before Honey Badger.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I'm thinking of the great recent, there hasn't been really many great, nicknames in college football.
No, and I can't even remember one prior to Johnny Football, unless you're going back to, Megatron was in the NFL. I don't know that he was called Megatron before he got to the NFL.
Right.
You got prime time and all that, but that's a different conversation for a different day. This back to running backs.
Yeah, we veered off there, but I think that I thought that was an interesting.
Yeah.
But anyhow, he's gonna have to earn it. He's gonna have to show up. He's gonna have to put the work in. He's gonna have to win the job. I think we kind of all expect that to happen, but it's not a given. He's not gonna walk in from day one and be standing there right next to Evan Prater or Ben Bryant, whoever takes that first rep at Camp Higher Ground.
If Evan Prater wins the job and Corey Kiner is back there behind him, is there any chance that we see the option in this offense?
Yeah. Why?
A wrinkle?
Maybe it's a wrinkle, but no.
I don't
in
think,
terms of are they going to run the option? No.
No, and that's not what I'm asking. But I just wonder.
Here's the thing about the option, Aaron. It's more about the line than anything else.
Yeah.
And if you want to have an option team, you got to have an option line.
Okay.
That's able to get out in space and block low while still being somewhat legal. You'll see a ton of read option.
I'm just for sure. Either way, whether it's Bryant or with Prater. But I was just curious if you thought that
with Prater.
Absolutely. But I was just curious if you thought maybe we'd see the actual option being run at all as a gadget play. or something in that nature.
They've tried it as gadget plays before, and it has gone horribly. Like, if don't run the option, don't run the option, right?
Well, I guess especially if Metz ends up winning that tackle job, I don't know that I would want to see Metz leading an option to the right.
When's the last time we saw him run the option? Army, when the guy just blew up the spot and picked it up and ran it back at the beginning of the game.
I hated that play when it was called. I hated that play.
So quit asking for the fucking option, Aaron.
Just don't run. Just never run the option against an option team. They practice against that all day, every day. The hell were you thinking?
Or block someone with two guys. They had two guys on one dude, and he just went right straight down the middle, right down Broadway.
Woof.
All right. Did you see Sauce throughout the first pitch today? Speaking of Sauce.
I did see that he was going to. I didn't actually see it.
And then how about this? 4th overall pick, and yet arguably the biggest Go Bearcats baseball fan. How excited he was so excited about his first pitch. He went there early in batting practice to get some work in to be ready for his first pitch. That kid's so special.
I hope that he didn't violate anything in his contract if he was taking BP.
No, to get his arm ready
to
throw the first pitch.
Okay.
Like, that's how serious he was about throwing his first pitch. He went there early to get some work in.
I did see Dez kind of tweet at him and say, no one in the stadium is safe. Be careful, or something along those lines.
He doesn't have a great baseball throwing form.
He's not an offensive player, so he's a catcher. He catches things. Well,
be a heck of a shortstop probably. With those, maybe center field with those arms and the ability to break.
Yeah. With the speed, climbing the wall.
Right. He'd be a hell of a. He probably couldn't hit for shit.
You may run like Mays, but you hit like shit.
Torrey Hunter or Billy Hamilton style.
Right. All right, let's get out of here. That's a wrap for tonight. Aaron, good to see you again. Glad to have you back. We'll see you tomorrow night. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!